Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. Here I'm going to teach you one way that you can create a piñata cookie. I am first scoring the cookie with a sharp knife, and then I will take my pink creative cookie or scribe, which has a flat sharp end, and rescore this cookie and then scoop out the contents with it. I like to cut out a portion of 2 cookies for my piñata cookies because I cut my cookies fairly thick at 3/8 of an inch. If you cut your cookies smaller than 3/8 of an inch, such as 5/16 of an inch or even a 1/4 inch, you'd probably want to do a different technique where you're putting 3 cookies together. Now I'm carefully digging out this scored section of cookie. I'm only going about halfway through the depth of my cookie, taking my time and being very careful not to dig all the way to the bottom of the cookie or to dig too deep into my cookie, where I will lose my strength of my cookie once I put icing on it. It's best to do this part when your cookie is baked but cooled, but not sitting for a long time where it's gotten really dried out. These cookies were baked and they've cooled for about 30 minutes before I did this portion. So I do the same technique for 2 sides of my cookies, basically to create a cavity big enough for sprinkles or whatever you're going to put inside your piñata cookie. Now I'm taking these 2 cookies and matching them up to make sure that they fit perfectly. They're rectangles. And wherever I see some variation, I'm using a zester to essentially zest the sides of my cookies so that they will match perfectly when I put them together. If you're doing cookies that are heart-shaped or other various shapes, you probably won't even need to do this, but on rectangles, they tend to get a little wonky. So I'm just using my zester to match up the sides perfectly. Now I have used royal icing templates to create a little stamp and a stamp mark and then some little hearts. I sell these on my website. If you go to the About Me section, you'll see those there. And then now I found some sprinkles at Michael's, and I'm just going to fill this bottom portion only of my cookie with some sprinkles. And then I've created a little handwritten note that says, "I heart you." I would recommend, if you're going to put a note inside your piñata cookie, to write it on wafer paper, just in case somebody accidentally consumes it. I don't think that would happen, but you just never know. So use wafer paper and edible pen to write your little note. Now I'm using outline consistency icing to make a pretty large squiggle along the perimeter of this cookie to essentially glue the top part of the cookie onto the bottom part of this cookie. I placed the top part of the cookie on, and now I'll begin decorating it. I'm first going to outline the perimeter of the cookie with white outline icing, and then I will go and flood the center portion of the cookie. I am now filling in this cookie with some flood icing. I do not like to flood all the way to the outline. You can if that's what you prefer to do. I personally like to flood my cookie close to my outline, but not on my outline, just to help prevent overflow of my flood icing. And then I use my scribe to do large circular motions to basically drag my icing towards my outline. Once I'm done with this flooding of my cookie, I'm going to immediately apply my royal icing transfers I made earlier that have now dried to my wet flood, and that way I don't have to worry with gluing the transfers on, especially for this little stamp mark, because it's very fragile. So lying them on top of the wet flood essentially acts as the glue for these transfers. Once the flood is dried, I'm going to go ahead and personalize my letter cookie with some outline icing. So here I'm just writing Valentine, and then above that I will write "to my," and of course you could personalize it in any way that you want. Once this cookie has fully dried, go ahead and give it away. Once they shake the cookie, they'll be able to hear the sprinkles in there, and they can break the cookie open to find their sweet surprise. Isn't this just the cutest idea? Thank you so much for following along, and let me know if you have any cookie decorating requests.